Hey guys, it's Bree here at Blossom and Branch Farm, and today I thought I'd take you on a little tour around the field here in mid to late August, show you what's blooming and also harvest a beautiful peachy late summer bouquet, show you all the flowers that are included in here. Let's go. So our first step is actually going to be this garden, and this is really more of our perennial food garden for my family. So we grow things like potatoes and asparagus in here, but also lots of bloomers, and we happen to have some of these really pretty foxglove. And if you're looking for a foxglove that can bloom in the first season, because typically they're biennial, which means they're going to bloom for you their second season, but there are a couple varieties like this one that will bloom for you in the first year, so you can treat them like an annual. So these are Foxglove Dalmatian Peach, and these are one of those ones that'll bloom first year. So I'm going to harvest one, but I don't want to harvest one that's already kind of starting to go to seed down here. I'm going to pick one. I'm going to grab one of these that you can see has not started to go to seed yet. So strip off those lower leaves, and remember that foxglove is poisonous, so you don't want to eat this one. If you have pets that might eat your plants, you might leave the foxglove out, but I love it for its peachy colors. All right, next up we're going to head over to the main production field and pick the rest of our peachy summer flowers for this bouquet. This is my favorite time of year at the farm because everything is blooming, including our lisianthus, so let's go check them out. All right, here are those lizzies, and you can also see here, if you watched our last video where we were seeding our zinnias, this is the stage that they're at now. So these guys are just getting ready to bloom, and you can see we've got some stuff nibbling on them. This is probably earwig damage here, but it doesn't really impact them that much unless they start getting a lot like this. So we just tend to leave that alone, and you can see we're starting to get our first blooms. Even though we seeded them in really late as our second succession, we're still gonna get some really good blooms out of these ones. But what I'm really excited about is our lisianthus because they're finally blooming. So I'm going to pick the one that I think is going to be the best color. Over here we've got the Voyage White. I always like these kind of ruffly white ones. Sometimes it's nice just to have an all white option, and because all white bouquets go with all kinds of different decor. Over here we have some Corelli Light Pink, but I think the one that I'm gonna pick is going to be this one, which is Voyage Champagne. Now we had some really tough growing conditions this year because we've had a lot of heat, and so you can see these lisianthus are a little bit stressed. They're a little shorter than normal, but they're still totally fine for bouquet length. So I'm gonna harvest this one here because it's already mostly opened. Strip off those leaves. I just leave them in the field to turn into organic matter. And you can see that these tones together go really, really well. So let me grab one more of those. All right, so we've got some good blooms in here. Let's go see what we can grab in terms of some filler flowers. And you can also check out, we have this is the progress on one of our cover crop rows here. So we've got buckwheat, some peas, and oats growing in this row. So this one is actually almost ready to terminate. So we're gonna let the sheep come in here this week and eat this down, and they'll love that. Let's see what else might go. Let's come up to the dahlia row and see if there's any fun dahlias in here that we could use. I planted some new ones this year, and I'll make sure I put them on the screen below so in case I forget to mention what type they are. Now some of these are a little bit Japanese beetle eaten. I'm actually gonna go ahead and deadhead those, and I'll give them to our sheep because they love dahlias, unfortunately for me. If you watched our video from last year, you remember how many dahlias they love to eat. But I think I'm kind of going for this peachy collection here. So this one looks really nice. This is a Cornell Bronze, and you can see how it gets a little bit peachy in toward the center. We have a lot of Cornell Bronze, and mostly that's because they store really well as tubers. So they tend to hang out, they tend to survive our winters really well. I do overwinter these dahlias, and the Cornell Bronze seem to hang in there really well, even if we have a very cold winter. So I'm gonna remove those leaves, and here's that Cornell Bronze. Now we've kind of got a little bit more of that bronzy, peachy tone here. I think let's grab one more of these, and I'm gonna get one more dahlia that I really like. Let's grab one more cornel. And later this week, I am gonna do a video about all my favorite pinky peachy dahlia varieties. So if you wanna see more dahlias, don't forget to tune into that one. All right, these are looking nice. Let's go grab, and I'm seeing some feverfew over there, so let's go get that too. Deadhead some of these. Beetle. Don't forget to deadhead your dahlias if you don't want them going to seed. If you do want them going to seed, now is the time to let them go to seed so you can collect some for next year. All right, oh, this is buckwheat. Okay, over here to the feverfew. Feverfew is annual, but if you leave it, it will reseed itself, and it can reseed itself pretty prolifically. So if you don't want it reseeding, you might want to go through and cut it and use it. So same thing, I'm just going to go ahead and strip those leaves. We started this one from seed, and feverfew can be planted out quite before last frost. So usually we actually plant this one 4 to 6 weeks before last frost in the spring because they're pretty hardy. I'm gonna get 3 stems of that. And I love seeing how this little Rudbeckia is playing in here, so let's see if we can find some of that will go with this palette. This is Rudbeckia triloba. So I like Rudbeckia triloba because it's so petite, and sometimes flowers can be a little over dominating, but Rudbeckia triloba is one that stays petite and cute, and so I really adore it in bouquets. So we'll just grab a couple stems, and I do have to be careful when I'm harvesting Rudbeckia because the bees really like to hang out on the underside of these ones, and I got stung by a bumblebee last week because I grabbed one. So I have to be a little careful. I don't want to go too yellow, so I'm just going to stick with those. But actually, there's another Rudbeckia that might work even better with this palette. So this Rudbeckia, oh hello little grasshopper. This Rudbeckia is called Rudbeckia Sahara, and you can see how it has so many more layers of ruffles. This is a cultivar. It's not a straight native Rudbeckia, but so many layers combined with the single Rudbeckia. And I really like this kind of light peachy color here in this palette. So let's grab some of those. Now with Rudbeckia, you want to do the wiggle test just like you do with zinnias, which is when you're harvesting them, you want to grab them and give them a little bit of a shake. If they stay nice and stiff and upright like that, that means they're ready to harvest. So just give them that little bit of a shake before you cut so that you know that they won't wilt in your vase. Let's grab a couple of those. You can see how nicely that plays with all the other colors. Maybe we'll grab one more of these darker colors too. Strip off all those lower leaves. All right. Maybe a little too dark, but we'll see when we put it together. All right, let's head to the next spot, which I think we should grab some zinnias next. All right, so our yarrow is actually starting to fade, unfortunately. We left it quite a long time this year so that we could get photos for our book that's coming out this winter. There are still some yarrow in here that look good, so we're just going to kind of pick through and grab the ones that are still yellow and haven't started to brown yet. And then the other video we have coming out this week is going to be all about growing yarrow as a cut flower, and also the ways that we use it in other ways other than as a cut flower. So for example, we like to use yarrow as a styptic powder, which means it stops bleeding. If you dry the leaves and grind them up, you can also make tinctures out of yarrow. They're really good for a lot of health issues, especially feminine health. So it's a really great plant to have around. Plus it's a native here for me and most of North America has a native yarrow. It's gentle, delicate yellow, goes so well, but now I see the zinnias, so let's head over there too. And then I think we're pretty close to having what we want. All right, so interestingly, this is my floret zinnias over here. I grew 2 packets of floret zinnias this year. I'm also sowing my very expensive floret zinnias, so this is terrifying. If you also are growing these floret zinnias that were like $10, $15 a packet, you are also probably terrified. So cross our fingers, let's seed these. This was one, and this was actually Floret's unicorn mix. And as you can see, I'm not sure if they're just too young or what's going on, but they're having a lot of issues, and they all came out red, which is not quite what I thought I was getting. But this is the Alpenglow mix down here. And the Alpenglow are so petite compared to some of my other zinnias, but a little bit more true to the colors on the packet anyway. You can see we've got some yellow. But the germination was not great for myself personally. Now I do direct seed these, so that always impacts germination rate. But if you pan down to the rest of our zinnias, which are the ones I typically plant, these ones all did much better. So I think for next year, I'm gonna stick kind of with my go-to varieties of zinnias. And one of them that I'm gonna use here in this bouquet is this one, and this is Queenie Lime Peach. And you can see that even among zinnias, there's always a lot of variation. So we've got some that are singles, we have some that are doubles. I tend to get more doubles if I direct sow my zinnias rather than starting them inside. But these all kind of have this nice palette here. So let's grab a couple of these. We're gonna do that wiggle test. So this one you can see is not ready because it's flopping around quite a bit at the top. But these older, more mature ones, this one for example, is nice and stiff, just like that Rudbeckia. So we're not getting flopping here. So let's cut a few of those. And then one more dahlia just to round it out. We'll make our bouquet. And I always cut my zinnias far down on the stem, even if it means you have to sacrifice side shoots, because that's going to give you longer stems for your next successions. So don't be afraid to cut your zinnias deeply. Seems scary, especially the first few cuts, but all right, for our last thing, let's head over to our other dahlia row, because I see one more peachy dahlia that I always like to include in this color palette. All right, so over here we have, this is a petite version of Rock Run Ashley. And Rock Run Ashley is definitely a peachier tone dahlia. It's a little bit of a lighter peach. This is even a little bit yellow for it typically, but I think most of the ones I'm looking for got picked this morning at our U-Pick. And when you are growing dahlias, if you're growing them for cuts, one good thing to pay attention to is which way the heads face. So you can see with Cornell Bronze, how they stand up and the heads face upward, where with this one it faces downward, which can make it hard to put in the center of a bouquet, but works here on the outside edge of the bouquet. All right, okay, final thing, I promise, and then we're done. I'm gonna grab some of these solidasters, and these solidasters are such heavy hitters here at the farm in terms of attracting beneficial insects, because it's a blend of asters and solidago, goldenrod, which are both really valuable for pollinators. And typically during the day, these are absolutely covered in bees, but typically they're honeybees. So Not so much the bumblebees on these plants, and it looks like they've all mostly gone back to their hives for the day, so I'm safe to cut. They come in a couple different tones, a little more yellowy and a little bit more white. So I think I'll head into the jungle here to get a little bit of this more yellowy tone. Just for a little filler. All right, well, I think this is looking quite beautiful and a nice little summery, late summer mix of flowers, not too fallish yet, but really just kind of a good cutting garden example of this slow descent into fall season with all these delicate yellows and blends of peaches. So I hope you enjoyed today's video, kind of walk through the field, building a bouquet with me. If you did, remember to like and subscribe. This week we'll have those Yarrow videos coming up. We also have a farm tour video coming out, I promise, this week. And what else did I say I was gonna do? Oh, and our little tour of peachy dahlias. So don't forget to subscribe and tune in for more of those videos. And if you want to see how to arrange these, remember you can always switch back over to our bouquet building video and you can watch kind of how to put these together in a beautiful way to display on your table. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you around here next time at the farm.